welcome to All My Life, SPO's brand new podcast. We have our guest here today is Josiah Klas. Josiah, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Yo, dude.
It's good to be here.
Great to have you here.
Thanks.
And Emma.
It is great to be had.
Emma, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Ready to co-host.
Let's do it. So, Josiah, scariest moment of your life, scariest thing that has ever happened to you, when you went, I might die. And
Yeah. Man, scariest moment of my life. There's two. One has to do with horse camp. The other has to do with graduation.
Stop it with horse camp.
Which one do you want?
That's the one we want, I
Horse
think.
camp.
Horse camp. Okay.
Wait, what was the second? I didn't even hear the next thing.
You don't need to.
The other one was graduation.
No, that's not
Okay.
scary.
Okay. Well, long story short, I thought I failed a class and I thought I wasn't going to graduate.
Yeah, that's not that
That
scary.
was really
But horse camp feels
It was
really-
actually more scary. I went to this horse camp. It was horse riding camp.
Do you have to call it horse camp?
I don't know. It wasn't band camp.
It was a horse
It
camp.
wasn't space camp.
All right.
It was horse camp.
So what happened at this horse camp that was so scary?
At this horse camp, I think I was like 7 or 8, and which at that point I was like, like the fish that are on the bottom of sharks, that like the shark doesn't know about. They just like eat the gunk on the bottom. I don't know,
Yeah.
bottom of sharks
Just learn
have
something.
algae. Or whatever.
Symbiotic.
Yeah, so I was like
relationships.
that to a shark was like me to a horse. Like it was just like it was unfazed and just didn't know that I was like wearing. It was like I was like an empty backpack like on the horse. You know what I mean? There's just like nothing on it.
Wait, but you're on top of the horse.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
under the horse.
Yeah, well, so first off,
Not
they
like
were
a
not
shark.
having us ride the horses right. Like, let me tell you, we were there strapping us. Yeah, no, I was on the back of the horse, but more or less, it didn't know that I was there. And there was a variety of things that had
Because
gone.
you were like 48 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like soaking wet, So there was a variety of things that happened at that horse camp, just kind of mishaps, and people kind of get injured or whatever. They like fell off their horses. But one time in particular, I was there. It was like the second day out of like 5, maybe the third day, and this kid, they were coming back. You'd get on a horse and you'd go in a line, and you'd go like kind of through some like the woods or whatever,
Sure.
and then you come back down. And I had gotten off my horse. We'd just gotten back from one, and they were teaching us how to like clean the stables or I don't know, like do something horse related. And this kid was coming back. He was a boy. I don't know how old he was. I'm sure around the same age. And the horse reared up. And he fell off the horse, and he hit the ground, and then the horse rears his back legs up and just stomps on his back.
No.
Just straight up. And he got taken away in an ambulance. And I have no idea what happened to that kid. But that could have been it. Like, I don't know. And there was still like 2 more days.
You watched that
I
happen.
watched this kid break his back getting stomped on by a horse.
Oh, that's terrible.
I didn't know that wasn't like an option. When you're riding a horse, like you're not like, oh, what's the worst thing that could happen? It's like you fall off. It's like, no. Actually, what if you fall off and get KO'd by a horse? So, and then there's 2 more days of camp. So for the next 2 days,
So how did that affect you? Like,
I'm terrified of horses. I actually can't
Still
ride horses
done.
to this day.
Yeah.
Cannot ride
done.
horses.
So did you continue riding though? Those
No,
next two-
I kept telling him that I felt sick to my stomach,
Seriously?
and I just kept cleaning the stalls.
Oh, yeah.
You
And I
cleaned a
remember
lot
there
of
was like this
stalls.
13-year-old girl who was there this is probably why the horse camp was going terrible, because like the counselors who were teaching us how to ride horses were like 13, and they don't, so whatever. And she kept being like, well, like, I know you're scared, but like horses are safe. It's fine. Whatever. And I was like, they are not. Like,
No, you just watched
you know
that
what I mean? Like if you just experienced something that was completely unsafe, you can't say they're safe, So anyways, so when I ride a horse now, I get, I'm already kind of an anxious person, but I get nervous. And then the horse, if they know you're nervous, then they
yeah.
just do
Yeah,
what they
they
take your
sense
lunch money and
Stomp on it.
just stomp them. So
It's terrible.
wow.
there was one. This is, man, I'm sorry. This is taking a little while, but there was one time I was on this retreat, and I was going for a walk, and I was going through this kind of this rough time in my life. But there was this like renewal of like, I felt like my masculinity was like getting renewed, and so I'm on this walk, and I'm on this path. I'm walking through the woods. And on this path, there's just like piles of like horse crap, and so I'm like, there's a horse out here, and I was praying, and in that moment I was like, God, if there's a horse out here, I will get on top of it. Like, and it was going to be this moment of like, I was like looking for this horse, and there was
Please tell me you found it.
no, there's no horse. So to this day, it hasn't happened, but
Not the Lord's will.
I thought it was going to be like the most profound moment of my life. But unfortunately, it was just me walking and trying to avoid horse crap.
Next door is crap.
Yeah. So that's that.
So Josiah, you are a missionary.
Yeah, full
And
time.
how many years have you been missionary?
So I am 7.5. I'm in my 8th year.
Awesome. And you are the chapter leader at UST.
University of St. Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Their
Go
mascot,
Tommies.
Tommy's.
Yeah,
That's
roll
right.
Toms.
Toms. And some of you might have seen Josiah at Late Night Live, our new fundraising events. You've been
Yes.
kind of
Just
on
begging for money.
stage, like
yeah.
the lead up there, Jimmy Fallon-esque. A
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
So how did you get into comedy? That's kind of like what your role
Sure.
is. Yeah.
A great start is being like below average height. You just kind of everybody needs a distinguishing factor. And I'm like 5'7" and some change, 5'6" and some change really. And
You're only 5'6".
3/4.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So
That's
you know,
it. Yeah.
Only
No,
put
I
out.
feel that.
But my license says 5'8", because I wear boots, so
You can put whatever you want on those.
yeah, that's great. Anyways, no, I think a lot of it had to do with my family, my parents. Both my parents are pretty funny. My dad especially is always cracking jokes and trying to be funny. The older I've gotten, the more I've realized that not everyone thinks his jokes are as funny as I used to think they are, and for sure as he thinks they are. So they but growing up, I was like, he's the funniest guy I know, And then my brother is also very funny, and my whole family, like both my parents, and my brother, they're very intelligent and they're very witty. And growing up, we really enjoyed like British kind of humor, which is kind of dry and witty, and So the other thing is my brother's 4 years older than me, and so and it's just me and him. And so oftentimes it'd be like my parents having a conversation with my brother, and I'm 4 years behind him, so I'm not really able to participate a lot. And so I would just like witness conversations and just kind of observe things. And most of my humor now, or the things that I think are really funny, are kind of observational things in a conversation or something. Something will happen and I'll connect something and be like, oh, I think that's really funny. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really where it came from. And then I'm sure there's some trauma or something. Usually for most people who are funny,
Pull your jokes from there.
they're just there's just emptiness inside and they're just trying to hide it somehow. So. Yeah.
So you've been a missionary for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
But you're also like love comedy and love getting to do that.
Yes.
Do you think that's something that you would ever like consider doing like full time?
Realistically, probably not. I would love to. I mean, comedy, doing comedy full time, from what I understand, it's not like I don't know a ton about this, But from what I understand, you really got to go for it. Right. So it would be like, I'm going to leave everything I do. I'm going to move to like New York or like Chicago, and then just like try and go for it. It'd be like being a musician or something, where you really have to like kind of go all in and spend a lot of time not making it to finally make it at some point. So realistically, I think that that would be really hard to see happen. I mean, continuing to do what we're doing here, like using entertainment in connection with ministry stuff, I love doing it. I'm like incredibly grateful for the opportunity. I mean, it's awesome to see how the Lord is like providing for something that I love to do and I love to entertain, in a way that I would never have the opportunities I have now if I had not worked for SBO. Like, there's no way that I would be doing any of these things. It's not like I was like, gunning for comedy and then God called me out of that into SBO. That wasn't an option, So super grateful for it. But I also like love the non-comedic parts of the mission, and I feel called to that as well. And so, I think there's a tension there, and there's a like, particularly this year and the last couple of years, just recognizing like time, like I only have so much space to do things, and when I overcommit, then I'm doing a lot of things pretty mediocre rather than doing a few things well.
What's the interrelationship between gifting and calling? Because it seems like I wonder sometimes if we get the two mixed up, or if we don't always understand how the two might go together. Because I think you have an incredible gift, like with comedy, and it's like the singular kind of thing that you can do effortlessly that others just don't have any access to, and it's just and you've used it for the gospel, and but you also talk about a calling to be a missionary, and those are two very different career paths, if you will. But what do you think is the connection between kind of hearing what God wants you to do as it relates to calling and gifting?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if it's calling versus gifting. I almost kind of think about it as like there's two giftings, right? And then there's like the Lord's call of kind of which gifting am I going to work in? Not, I'm not like I do not think that I'm like the most gifted like missionary or whatever. I don't think
one of the most.
Yeah, I don't think I like totally
not the
suck,
most,
but but I do think that like I have gifts that serve the mission, and that the Lord's like inviting me to use those in a way. And what's interesting about it is I think there was an opportunity for my life to only be the funny guy, and sure, like I could have a family and all these things, and I'm sure those things would kind of continue to develop the other parts of who I am. But humor is both a strength of mine, but also a weakness, and there's a way that I think it's gotten in the way of taking myself seriously and what I have to offer to the world beyond humor, and my own understanding of myself and what I have to give and things like that, and so I think the Lord's actually been really particular about inviting me into a lot of work that has actually proven to be valuable that's disconnected from humor. And I think really to kind of like transform my own like understanding of who I am and who I am as a man and what I'm made for and who I'm made to be and understanding that there's like a depth and a rudeness to me and I don't know if I would have ever encountered that if I'd purely pursued humor.
Yeah. Take us to the decision point. You're a missionary now. You've been working with SPO for, 7, almost 8 years. But there was a point of decision where your life could go one way or the other. Take us into that decision point, that call to be a missionary, and what that call, what it really invited you into, and what you were in some ways kind of letting go of as well.
Totally. Do you remember that? Retreat center? It was like in the middle of the woods,
like in Wisconsin.
I think so. And you'd like drive up that hill, and there was either a bear or like a dude, like a sign, but it looked like a person, and it would scare everybody because we would always get there like it's February,
yes,
so it'd be like
dark,
3:30, but it's pitch black. You can see the constellations, whatever, and you could like snowshoe. Do you remember this place?
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was. So it was there. It was at that place. I think it was February or March or something. We were on some retreat. It was called Two Kingdoms. And at that point in my life, I'd actually already kind of made this decision of like what post-college was going to look like. I had been kind of in this on and off again relationship with this girl that I knew from high school. And when she had gone and done like kind of a year of mission work in college in New Zealand, of all places, which is kind of cool.
Beautiful spot.
And when she came back and we started dating again, it was kind of under this understanding of like, I remember like, it was awesome. I had like decided, I was like a sophomore or something like that. And I decided what God was going to call me to do in like 2 years. And I like didn't know like what class I was going to take in like a month. You know what I mean?
You had the big rock.
Yeah, like,
you put the big rock in first.
Yeah, I put in this big rock in. So I was like, all right, like I'm going to, like, I think this is what I'm going to do. Like, I think the Lord, and I'd already been thinking about working for SPO. And so I decided like, you know what, like I'm not going to work for SPO. I'm going to like give my life for the next couple of years here at St. Thomas and do my best and whatever. And then I'm going to marry this girl. Like we'll get engaged my senior year, whatever. And then I think I just said I was going to work in business, because I was a liberal arts major and you don't really know what else there is. So you just say business.
Yes.
I'm going to do business. with people, or other businesses. There's a whole network there. So I was on this retreat, and the Lord just pretty simply revealed it. This wasn't really the decision point, but just revealed that I had made this decision that I wasn't going to work for SPO and that I was actually going to follow this other path. And this path kind of was like, it was nice, it was pretty safe, whatever. And he simply...
Wait, the revelation was what? That...
Well, and and he simply just showed that, like, I was sad that I had chosen the path that I was on, and that I was actually mourning the fact that I wasn't going to do mission work, and that I wasn't gonna kind of send it with SPO. Because the other option was, it wasn't just like do mission work, but there was kind of this understanding of like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in. Because when I made the decision to like step back into the relationship, it was kind of with this understanding that like, if I step back into the relationship, I'm not gonna work for SPO.
Would you say
Would
you say you experienced like the emotion of like it was like grief?
For sure. And that's what it was.
What was it? What made you so sad? Like, why did that bring sadness or grief?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. I don't know if I totally know. I mean, I think it was, I knew there was this opportunity to send it in my life that I'd never sent it before, and I'd lived really safely for most of my life and kind of done the comfortable thing, and I knew that in doing this, it was like an opportunity, I think, to kind of be like transformed as a person. Like I was letting the Lord like work in my life, but it was really on my conditions and on my time and whatever. And this was going to be like a blank check, it was going to be like, Lord, here's my life. Like it was this decision point of, am I going to make the decisions that I think are the best, but are still like me making the decisions? Or am I going to say, Lord, like I'm actually officially letting you take control and you choose like what I do with my life? And I had said no to that. I said, I didn't want that. I want to date this girl. And I was sad that I did that.
That's powerful.
They always say that the Lord laughs at the plans that we make.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He was just cackling.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But he knew. I mean,
Yeah.
it's awesome. He's got something great for you.
Yeah, and then it's just like wildly crazy life since then.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I would have never done.
Yeah. Well, and so in addition to the comedy and being a missionary, something else I know that you this big part of your life is music.
Mm-hmm. I love music.
Yeah, we were I was joking earlier today as we were doing prep for the show that we worked in the old office, and our offices were across the hall from each other.
Yeah.
And you could always tell when Josiah was coming because you could just hear him singing in the hallway. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. What? So I know you've written some songs that we use pretty regularly in our times of worship. Like what?
Lord, I Need You. Amazing Grace.
All the popular ones.
Yeah. My Heart Will Go On.
Come Thou Fount. I mean,
Yeah.
the list goes on.
Power. By
It's an
Kanye
honor, really,
West.
to have Josiah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what has that been like to, just like spiritually in the process of like writing those songs, or like even just the journey of kind of becoming into songwriting?
Yeah. So I similar to comedy, my dad is musically inclined. Actually, my whole family is. All of them were in choir and went on to do much more kind of official music stuff more than I did. But I always really liked singing. Like I remember like singing with my dad in the car like all the time. When I was growing up, we'd like sing along to like Christian, like all these CDs. I don't know. Do you guys know what CDs are? It was like this thing.
Compact discs.
Yeah. And there was like a slot, and you kind of put it in there, and then I don't know how, but then your car would be like, "Thank you for your sacrifice." Like it was just like you would appease the sound god, and then it would just play songs to you.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It feels so good. It catches it and just slides it right. It always worked usually.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, getting into songwriting, music inclined, but it was something that I always wanted to do, and I just like creative stuff in general, and I phrases and words have always like struck me really, like, you know, like the whole, I don't know if you guys listen to music sometimes, and a certain phrase just kind of like gives you like goosebumps, you know, there's just like something about it, you're like, man, that's like so good. And I think I just wanted to see if I could do that, I guess. And
do you have an example of a line from a song that does really stick out to you where you said goosebumps?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Because I have one from Matt Maher's
from your
song,
life?
from Lord I Need You, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Yeah. That phrase that Jesus is our hope and stay.
Mm.
I don't know what it is about that line.
It's like the classic, like Matt Maher, like yell.
I don't know if it's maybe.
His voice
But
doesn't
no,
go that high.
I think what I love about it, you never hear that phrase. Like, I think part of it is so often the songs that we sing, that there's like this limited spiritual vocabulary that we sing.
Yeah.
But this one is not in that kind of limited vocabulary, but it just worked. And I've never used that phrase or heard anybody else use that phrase, but it's just anyway, it just really struck me.
Yeah. Both of the songs that we use here, like in-house and SPO, both of them have come from a desire to kind of like write like a certain term, you know. One of them's called Emmanuel, and it was just like, I don't know, I just really liked that word, and I just was trying to figure out, is there a way we can do a song that has Emmanuel in it that we don't only sing at Christmas? You know, is it like, could we do something there, like this idea of like God with us? Yeah, I don't know, it was really powerful. So
It's a great song.
And it's like the thinking about the word Emmanuel came from it was the Bethel album that was like all female singers, like did all the songs, I think. Starlight was the name of the album and the name of the song, I think. You're like starlight in the dark.
That one.
Yeah, towards the end she's like, Emmanuel, Emmanuel, and I was like, dang, that's cool. So I just stole it, and then you just like do your own thing, and then it's awesome. And we're small enough that they'll never know.
Except for the million people listening.
Yeah. So it's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
What are you seeing on campus? Like, here you are. I'd love to know, like, knowing what you know about your life.
Just pretty limited.
Well, knowing what
All
you
of
know,
it.
knowing what you know about your
vast
life.
experience.
You're a college student. You're actually working as a missionary, as a chapter leader
On a college campus.
On a college campus, but your alma mater.
Yes.
So you know that campus. You know that those students. You know those guys. You're living in household now.
Yep.
And so, like, I wonder what you would tell yourself. Maybe not so much what you tell another guy, but like, what would you say to freshman Josiah? Like, what would you want to share with him, and in essence, share with other young guys who are trying to figure out who they are, who God is, what they're here to do? You know, these big questions that we all have.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of advice would you give yourself, even?
There was this interview that they did with John Mayer. He's wearing this like really cool like colonial style shirt, and they were interviewing him about being like an ego addict or whatever. And they're like, "What would you tell yourself?" And he's like, "I wouldn't say. I would just give that guy a hug." It's like talking about like, what would you say to yourself as a young person? I always thought that was really funny. I was like, that's kind of true. I don't know. I would just like give him a hug. Be like, it's gonna be all right, man. Like,
No, really, but like, is that real? Are you just
certain-
saying that because John Mayer said that, or do you feel
a bit of both? Yeah. No,
But like, what's real about that for you?
it's just like life is. My experience of life is like being like shot out of a cannon. I'm a very pretty like I feel things pretty like strongly, and so the whole, you know, it's like I'm doing really good or I'm doing really bad, you know, like, and I'm just kind of all over the place. My personality test said that I am oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Which personality test?
Do you remember the one? Did you do the one where it's like Myers-Briggs, but then there's like one at the end where it's like it's basically you're either like emotionally unstable or you're emotionally stable. It's like that's like the option. Anyways, it's turbulent. I'm turbulent. I'm a turbulent person. So I would give myself a hug and tell myself that it was gonna be okay. But what I would say is that I think the biggest thing is like passion Passion is fuel for the process. I didn't steal it. I think that's from Morgan Schneider, who's a protege of, or I did steal that. I didn't make that up. That Morgan Schneider, who's a protege of John Eldridge, I think says that. But this idea that like it's so easy, like in like really early on, just as a person, but especially around conversion, to just be like so passionate about things, and then when passion like leaves, to just get like so freaking confused on, am I doing the right thing? Am I going the right direction? I was so passionate about this thing. I'm so, whatever. And this sense that like the Lord gives us passion to give us fuel to say yes to a process, yes to this process of being transformed, and that you're not always going to be like crazy passionate about what's happening in that process or whatever, but that doesn't mean that like the process isn't happening. And so I'd say that. The other thing I would say is like, like let yourself go all in. I mean, there's so many times where I've like held back out of fear of being that guy, whatever that guy is, in terms of being someone, like I don't want to be a guy who, is that hardcore on, saying no to sin in his life or whatever. Like, it's like, I just don't want to be limp. Like I'm super cool going 75%. And, eventually you become that guy, and just become that guy earlier. Like it'll make your life better. You're going to be that guy eventually. It's just be him now.
Dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Josiah, it's been awesome to hear from you. Before we wrap up, we're going to fire you some hot seat questions.
Hit me. Let's do it.
All right. Quick. So favorite TV show?
Okay. Are we talking... Sorry, I'm breaking the rules. Hot sheet questions. Are we talking about like comedy or not comedic or anything?
TV show.
Gosh, okay. Favorite TV show. I used to love Criminal Minds. I would watch it with my dad all the time. I had mono when I was like in 10th grade. I watched a ton of the World Poker Tour during that period of my life because I missed like 30 days of school. It's awful. I also, we'll go.
That's great. That's great.
Speaking of comedy, favorite comedian?
Man, comedians are hard.
I know.
Especially like in our...
So different.
They're, they don't always say super uplifting things. Mm-mm. And there's a lot of comedians who are incredibly talented, but who, you can't really be like, I love this guy, because, I don't know. Comedians that I do really love, comedian I don't love. I want to start there. This is kind of a hot take. I'm not a big Jim Gaffigan fan.
Okay.
The reason why is I don't like funny voices and I don't like food humor, and that's kind of like his.
It is
like Hot Pockets. Like that's his. It's both together.
Yeah.
So I would say that I really love Nate Bargatze, and I do really love John Mulaney. I think John Mulaney is a pretty approachable, secular comedian who, I don't know when we're gonna release this. Maybe he's gonna come out with some special that's like. Just awful, but at the recording of this, he's pretty clean.
And baptized Catholic.
I would be baptized Catholic, yes.
Mulaney.
Oh, Mulaney, yes. I was like, is that a question? Yeah, I was like...
Did you get baptized?
I was baptized as a baby, not Catholic. And then I was confirmed Catholic.
In college.
If you could pick any concert to go to, somebody living or dead, who would it be?
Living or dead? I would choose, is it like a one-on-one thing, or is it like I'm like at a concert?
You're in the middle of a crowd.
Man, Muse.
Muse?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They're just like, they're powerful, man. I remember I was like in like 9th grade, I saw some video of like a concert they did, like Europe goes nuts over Muse, and I was like, this is awesome.
Muse.
For the locals here, favorite Twin Cities coffee shop?
The ones I go to the most, if you'd like to come say hey, are Nina's Coffee Shop, Cathedral Hill, as well as Quixotic. However, 2 faves of mine that I don't go to often is one called Fragment. It's kind of like our Ascend conference that doesn't have any vowels in it. It's just Frgmnt. Fragment. It's right next to Free House. It's in North Loop. I also I've gone here one time, but I love it. It was a cool spot. It's called the Lost Fox, I believe. It's in downtown St. Paul. Again, not one that I go to regularly because it's not like super accessible for me. But It's like a coffee shop / bar, and because it's a bar, they have like a whole, like a room where they would serve you alcohol, and you can sit in it during the day but there's not many patrons there because it's the middle of the day, so there's tons of space, but it's a cool vibe.
Dude, love it.
Yeah.
Josiah, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So grateful. Thanks
for
guys.
joining us here on All My Life.
All My Life.
We're on YouTube, on all the podcast places for podcasts, and just so glad you could
check
join
out
us.
our Discord.
Yeah, check it. It's bumping.
Yeah,
it's bumping. You want to start it?
No.
Discord freaks me out. I don't understand.
I don't actually
works.
really know what it is.
See you, dude.
Peace. Thanks, guys.